What's up, my beer bros? Maine-iac here with Week 13 NFL Power Rankings, and we are going to make this one as quick as possible. I'll only explain the teams that I need to. At number 32, we have the Cleveland Browns. There's not much else to say about the Browns. And at number 31, we have the 49ers dropping a spot. They dropped more so for the Cardinals' impressive win. It's not that the 49ers got worse. I think they got a little bit better with Jimmy Garoppolo starting this week, but without anything yet to prove it, they still sit at 31. Two more teams suffering from the Cardinals' upset of the Jaguars are the Colts and Bears, both dropping one spot to Colts 30th, Bears 29th, respectively. I like what Jacoby Brissett has done for the Colts, but other than Frank Gore and T.Y. Hilton, there's nothing really on that team supporting him. There's not really an offensive line. The defense is okay at best. The second and third receivers are Jack Doyle is good-ish. And other than that, the Colts kind of suck. Then for the Bears, Mitch Trubisky's played terrible, but I think that's more the fact that they have a terrible offense. The system is just bad itself. I like Jordan Howard as a running back, but I don't know. Their defense is ravaged by injuries a little bit right now. I think Trevathan's still suspended. That does hurt them. Their defense is starting to slow down, and that was the only thing carrying them throughout the season, so they're dropping slowly. At number 28, we have the New York Giants dropping one spot. I was tempted to drop them more to like 30th or something, but with the benching of Eli, I don't necessarily know what that's going to do for our team, so it's a question mark. So I'm keeping them up here, and the reason I'm keeping them up here, other than that, is their defense is playing better. I'm not going to say well. I think it's a good defense with great players that's really poorly coached overall. The scheme's changing. The scheme's not changing enough, I should say. I heard in a press conference today what Ben McAdoo's doing is game planning around their own players. But what he should do is game plan around your own players and around your opponents, which he's not doing. So unless it's a good matchup, the defense is probably going to struggle. Then at number 27, we have the Cardinals moving up 4 spots, and I do have to say right now, I was impressed when Arians came out with a comment saying that he could see Blaine Gabbert being the starting quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals next year. Well, if Carson Palmer didn't come back. I like what Blaine Gabbert's been doing in the role in Arizona. He's definitely doing a lot better than he did in his role in Jacksonville when he got drafted there first, his rookie year or whatever. I don't like what Adrian Peterson's doing. He kind of sucks, but he's getting a longer leash because of who he is, and that's kind of bullshit. Their defense is stepping up with Peterson playing really well. Chandler Jones is playing out of his mind at the line this year. They're a good team with just overall bad performances, and that's what sinks them so far, but they could be moving up shortly. Who knows? And next, number 26 and 25, they stay exactly where they are. We have the Dolphins and Buccaneers. I'm not going to talk too much about them, just a little highlight. Matt Moore played okay against the Patriots last week, and I kind of like a little bit of what their defense is doing. I just think their ego is a little too big for their britches. Drake and Williams had some nice runs. Landry had some nice catches. But they need to humble themselves a little bit, and I think they could play a lot better. Overall, all they need to do is just be a little bit more humble. Then we have the Buccaneers. I don't know what to say about the Buccaneers. Winston still whatever he's doing. Fitzpatrick still okay as a starter. Mike Evans is on and off like a light switch. But I still think without injuries, this team could have been something. But even with injuries, I like the emergence of O.J. Howard as a young tight end. He hasn't been producing like his draft stock would say he would, but he's improving week to week, and their defense is getting healthy little by little. Still a bottom of the pack team, but a team that could be on the rise if it wins a couple more games, but they have a tough test this week against Green Bay. And at number 24, we have the Denver Broncos dropping 4 spots. This late in the season, it's not often you'll find spots of this dramatic unless there's a reason for it. And with the Broncos, It's absolutely terrible quarterback play. I don't know what's going on. First they started Trevor Siemian, then they started Brock Osweiler until Paxton Lynch got ready. Then they started Paxton Lynch, and then he got hurt into 2 quarters. Now they're starting Trevor Siemian again, which you would think if Paxton Lynch got hurt, they'd go back to Osweiler. But no, they went back to Siemian. They still can't run the ball. Their receivers are getting too overpowered too often. Their defense is getting outmatched. I don't know how. They have an amazing defense, or they should. They have Von Miller and Chris Harris Jr. and Aqib Talib. Well, not for this week. That's another thing. Aqib Talib suspended this week. That does hurt him a little bit. And as for the Packers, they move up one. Brett Hundley played, I think, very well considering his recent stretch of performances. Their running game showed up a little bit. Their defense made some, or forced some key turnovers against the Steelers and gave them a chance to win. But I think that clutch factor still missing. And overall, this team can get beat too easily. I can't even say they're heavy favorites against the Bucs this week, but Aaron Rodgers should be coming back soon, and when that happens, Green Bay could turn it around just like that. At number 22, I moved the Jets up one spot, even after coming off a loss. They've been playing, I don't want to say good football, but I don't want to say bad football. Robbie Anderson in that last game against the Panthers played out of his mind. A wide receiver that not even 5 weeks ago I would have said probably would have been a wide receiver 3 or wide receiver 2 on almost every other team in the league, played really good football with a really okay offense. Bilal Powell's not really standing out too much, neither is Forte. I like McGuire as an X factor, but he's not standing out too much either. Their defense has been playing good football, but their defense needs to play a lot better football if they want to carry that offense. McCown's been, for how old McCown is, I do have to give him some credit. He's been playing very well this season. And as for the Raiders, I almost moved the Jets above the Raiders, but moving someone up multiple spots off a loss is a little hard for me, especially with the Raiders. Derek Carr's playing inconsistent. Crabtree's gone for this next game, so that does hurt a little bit. Amari Cooper is a good wide receiver. He's just not showing up lately, and this Raiders defense has more holes than Swiss cheese, and the only bright spot, Khalil Mack, can't carry an 11-man unit by himself. Maybe if there was 11 Khalil Macks, the Raiders would have a better record, but sadly, there's only one of him. At number 20, we have the Dallas Cowboys dropping one spot. I don't want to drop him too much, even though Dak Prescott has been playing miserable football. I'm not saying he's been playing bad. I'm not saying he's a bad QB, though. He's been playing miserable, as in you can tell on his face he's miserable. The offensive line, when he got sacked 8 times, it might have got to him a little bit, and it might have shook his confidence. And without his partner in crime, Ezekiel Elliott, it's still hard for the Cowboys to put together a solid game. Now, Ezekiel Elliott should be back in a couple weeks against the Seahawks. I think that's when his suspension's up. But without Sean Lee on that defense, they can't stop anybody. And it's kind of sad. And then we have the Bengals at number 19. Good win against the Browns, solid win against the Browns. They move up 3 spots. They were 22, so they're moving up. They are in playoff contention at, I believe, 5 and 6, and I think the Bills and Ravens are at 6 and 5. I was just trying to think that out a little bit. Now, they're only a game back, so if they win some of the key matches coming up, they could sneak themselves into the playoffs. I like Joe Mixon. He's been improving every week. That's what you expect from a good rookie. AJ Green has been playing great football like he usually does. Andy Dalton has been doing what he needs to done. And that's the good thing about Andy Dalton. If you look at his career as a whole, he doesn't have that, like, damn, he's great. But he has that thing, like, if you need him to get something done, he will do his best to get it done. I kind of like that scrappiness. Then you have that defense. Always a solid unit in Cincinnati, that defense. This could definitely be a dark horse for the playoffs. A lot of people are thinking Chargers sneak in. Maybe the Ravens and Titans get the wild card berth, but don't sleep on the Bengals. Here we have 2 promising teams at number 18 and 17 respectively. Texans at number 18 dropped 4 spots, and the Chiefs at number 17 dropped 5 spots. All I can say about these 2 teams is that they looked so promising at the beginning of the year, only to disappoint. Granted, for different reasons. You have the Texans, who lost Deshaun Watson, J.J. Watt, Whitney Merciless, and injuries kind of ravaged that whole team. Tom Savage has been playing mediocre football at best, and there's only so much Lamar Miller and DeAndre Hopkins can do. DeAndre Hopkins, I feel bad for him because throughout his whole career, he's had really inconsistent quarterback play, and then he finally gets a really good quarterback, and he only plays a few games and gets hurt. And then you have the Chiefs, who are on a downward spiral. Alex Smith is playing terrible football lately. Kareem Hunt has been at a snail's pace compared to what he used to be. Tyreek Hill, not really getting the ball as much as you'd think. Travis Kelce still performing well overall, but the major issue with this team is that defense. That defense has been playing wildly inconsistent. If they want to hold on to that division, they seriously need to step up soon. Now here's two teams here. One, in the Washington Redskins, move up spot to number 16, who, as with the other teams, they suffer a lot of injuries. Their offense has been riddled. Offensive line, at one point, I believe, had 4 or 5 people on the injury report. Jordan Reed's been out almost all year. They've had multiple running backs go out. They had multiple defenders go out. Josh Norman missed a few games, but they're still playing very solid football. They pushed the Saints to the limits a couple weeks ago, which was impressive. So I believe they're a middle-of-the-pack team. Kirk Cousins is good. So they move up one to number 16. They're not really, really good, even though the defense is good, so I can't move them too much higher until they win a couple more games. And then you have the Buffalo Bills. Impressive win over the Chiefs after a disappointing loss to the Chargers. Tyrod Taylor is a good quarterback, but he is inconsistent, and they do struggle. I like the running game of Sean McCoy, but he's been kind of here and there a little bit this year. Their defense is playing okay. They have one of the best young tandems in the secondary, but their run defense does struggle a little bit. So they're almost more of a matchup team, and they do face the Patriots this week. So we'll see. We'll see if the team can play off its strengths this week or not. But Bills, they aren't the usual Bills, and that's a good thing. At number 14, we have the Baltimore Ravens. Now this team, Joe Flacco has been playing some of the worst football I have ever seen, but he's getting his seasons in performances have improved a little bit. Their defense has been playing crazy good football. That's one reason why they're so high. One reason they're in the wild card contention right now. Certainly isn't that offense. And at number 13, we have the Titans, who stay stagnant with a close one over the Colts. I can't really credit the Titans much more than that. Marcus Mariota still struggled. I believe he threw 2 interceptions. I like what Delaney Walker does at tight end. He is, I think, one of the league's premier tight ends. You could almost put him up there with Graham, Kelce, and Gronk. The running back tandem, I think, is good. A little bit underperforming lately. I love Rashard Matthews as a wide receiver, but I don't know if they have too much depth at that position. Their defense has been questionable, or at least performance-wise. I think they're stepping up, though. I think this is a team on the rise. I hope they're on the rise. I kind of want them to supplant the Jags in the division just because that would be such a good storyline, but we'll see. They're not a bad team, but they're not like a good team. Up next, we have the biggest jump in a couple weeks, at least record-wise, I should say. We have the Los Angeles Chargers. Almost called them the San Diego Chargers, and I do apologize for that. They move up 6 spots to number 12. They move from below the middle of the pack to the upper echelon of teams into like the playoff pack is almost what you could call this next group of people. I like what the Chargers are doing. Phillip Rivers and Keenan Allen have been playing good football. Antonio Gates, not really a factor anymore, but Hunter Henry's been showing up a little bit. Melvin Gordon has kind of been slowing down, but they have Eckler to help him out in the backfield. I like Williams as well at receiver. Their defense has a really good runs. I don't know. The Chargers do struggle sometimes against certain types of players. Melvin Ingram and Joey Bosa are probably one of the best pass rushing duos in the league, and they are definitely probably going to make the playoffs, especially if they can knock off the Chiefs in their upcoming matchup, and it should be definitely interesting to watch. And at number 11, we have the Detroit Lions dropping a spot. A decently good team. I like Amir Abdullah and what he's been doing. He hasn't been doing crazy well, but he's been doing a little bit. I think better help would probably get him more production. But I like Matthew Stafford. As wildly inconsistent as he is, he's usually clutch. I can appreciate that. Marvin Jones and Golden Tate, a good wide receiver combo. That defense has been stepping up a little bit as of lately, but that defense can also get exposed. And to me, that's been happening a little bit too much lately. I think they're currently outside the playoffs. If I'm not wrong, I think the current playoff field in the NFC is the Eagles, Vikings, Rams, Saints, and then the Panthers, Falcons. So the Lions are on the outside looking in currently, but I feel like maybe they can sneak in. You have the Panthers and Falcons, where a little, and the Saints right there. So if the Lions can keep winning and a little step up, but then Lions could very well manage. They definitely have the talent for that. The Jags and the Seahawks at number 10 and 9. Starting out the top 10, we have the Jags at number 10, dropping 2 spots after a disappointing loss to the Cardinals. I'm going to chalk this one up to inconsistencies in the game plan. The defense got a little bit exposed by Blaine Gabbert, but it happens when your offense turns the ball over, makes mistakes like Blake Bortles and the offense can. I like what the offense can do, but I'd feel a lot more comfortable with this offense if Allen Robinson was playing this year. Sadly, he got lost at the beginning of the year with an injury. I like the running game of Leonard Fournette, but as long as Blake Bortles is Blake Bortles, they're probably going to stack the box, dare Bortles, and that's going to hamper them a little bit. This defense has the potential, with the best secondary in the league, possibly the best defense in the league. It has the potential to carry them to the Super Bowl, but it reminds me of the Denver Broncos when Peyton Manning and Brock Osweiler were playing terribly. You can get carried to the Super Bowl, you can get carried and win the Super Bowl, but it's not going to be easy, and that's what the Jags are facing this year. Then you have the Seahawks. I have moving up 2 spots to number 9. Congratulations to me for realizing that the Seahawks aren't necessarily that bad without Sherman and Chancellor. Now, Chancellor should be coming back. Originally, I thought he was going to be out all year, but they said there's mumblings about possibly him and Cliff Averill coming back before the playoffs, or maybe in the playoffs. I think that will change a lot of things. I like what Russell Wilson's doing, even with an offensive line that's playing okay. Better with Dwayne Brown. Respect to that, man. He's playing great left tackle. Doug Baldwin, Paul Richardson, decent receivers. Not going to say they're great. Decent receivers. They play, it's not like any of them are superstars, but they have such chemistry and they play so well together that any given week the Seahawks could win. They could beat you with almost anything, they could whip you with almost anything, but also just like that, any given week they can lose. They face a tough game against the Philadelphia Eagles this week, as if you've seen my game pick video. If you haven't, go check it out. If you have, you'll know I picked the Seahawks to beat the Philadelphia Eagles because I believe they have that chemistry factor which can overcome an Eagles defense and force them into mistakes. Now, on to the top 8. At number 8 and 7, we have, who I just stated not too long ago, the wild card teams of the NFC. And yes, they're both up here because I believe the AFC wildcard teams are not nearly as good. Overall, you have the Falcons at number 8 moving up 1 spot. Matt Ryan's playing really well. I cannot discredit in any way or shape or form Julio Jones' amazing 3rd game with over 250 receiving yards. He played great football. But I also can't discredit the fact that he only had, I believe, 1 touchdown or maybe 2 before that game all season. Where have you been, Julio? You're one of the reasons why Atlanta was struggling so early in the year. You would have got maybe a few more touchdowns. Maybe Atlanta's 1 loss team, 2 loss team, 3 loss team. Who knows? But Atlanta's not doing terrible. Their record's good enough for the wild card. But maybe they have a lot of division games, so they could definitely sneak into the division this year. I like Tevin Coleman, but I think they need Devontae Freeman back healthy to take really the next step. Also, their defense with all that young talent is really getting it back together, which I like. And as for the Panthers, when you have an X factor like Cam Newton at quarterback, number 7's a good spot for you. Their offense, I can't say is bad. It's just I don't know what their offense is. Obviously, it's working though, so I can't say it's like, hey, I don't like your offense. Cam Newton's been wonderful. I'm not saying he's playing like his MVP level because he's not. He's just been playing really good football. I think he relies too much on the run, and eventually, when his legs don't work as well as they do right now, I think he's going to become a very mediocre quarterback. He's making mistakes throwing the ball. He's kind of inaccurate sometimes. Christian McCaffrey's really stepping up in the running game, though. That's a really good thing for the Panthers. The biggest question for me is their receivers, but as long as their defense plays as complementary football like they have been with Luke Kuechly playing very, very well, then the Panthers are definitely a threat in the playoffs. Definitely. Looky what we got here. Number 6 and 5, we have division rivals. We have the New Orleans Saints at number 6. Even though they just recently beat the Rams, I think they did well enough. I think they did poor enough when they snapped their winning streak this week that they deserve to drop. Rams bounced back a little bit. That's also a part of the factor here. Saints do drop 3 spots to number 6. They probably won't drop too much further for the rest of the year. Drew Brees has been playing well. Not putting up the numbers you would expect Drew Brees to put up. I don't think that's going to happen much more often. I think he's going to keep putting up those numbers we're used to Drew Brees. But one of the factors that keeps the Saints in the top 6 and makes them a serious Super Bowl threat is a little running back known as Alvin Kamara. Hands down, and I'm talking absolute, both hands down, 10 hands down if you have them, Alvin Kamara is absolutely Rookie of the Year. There is no doubt about it. If he was a featured back like Jordan Howard or Ezekiel Elliott, this guy would probably have close to 1,300, 1,400 scrimmage yards already. But he doesn't, because he is only the secondary back, playing behind a great back himself in Ingram, and he's still putting up these numbers. It's incredible. They have a good receiving core, a decent tight end core. Fleener isn't as good as I thought he would be this year, but I can't say if that's so much more they rely more on the run game now or not. Their defense is playing actually great football. I contribute that loss somewhat to the injuries they received. It's hard for your defense to remain consistent without one of their best players in Vaccaro and Lattimore, I believe, were the 2 defenders that were out for the game. Okafor missing on the defensive line does hurt. Also, another reason for their drop. And for the Rams, great football players. Goff playing great in his sophomore season. Gurley playing great in, I think, his 4th year or something like that. Woods was out last week, but they still won. Watkins has been stepping up, which is really nice to see him performing so well. And the Rams defense, even though I don't think there's too many players on there I would call absolute superstars, they've been playing like a super unit. And that's something you need. They're having fun playing the game. They are definitely, I think, probably I guess, I'm trying to think. Yeah, I think they're definitely one of the favorites to take down the Eagles in the NFC this year, but I don't think they're the favorites. And pretty soon you're going to find out who is. At number 4, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers, with coming off a win against the Packers in a game in which they struggled and won by a game-winning field goal. I'm not going to discredit the win for them, but it is disappointing that once again they played down to their opponents. I credit Green Bay for sticking close. Antonio Brown played a good game. Le'Veon Bell played a good game. Big Ben made some mistakes, a couple interceptions, but they were kind of on the receivers as well. Jesse James is playing better than I thought he was capable of. Their defense, TJ Watt's been playing great. The pass rush is playing great. I think their secondary can be exposed a little more easily than people realize. And they're definitely, in my book, one of the top 3 teams in the AFC. But will they make the AFC Championship game? I think it depends on who they go up against before. If the Steelers find it to where they're going up against the Jaguars before the AFC Championship game, I think they'll be in trouble. But then at number 3, we have the Minnesota Vikings moving up 2 spots to the top 3, I think, for one of the first times all year. Maybe the second time. I don't know. My brain's all confuddled right now. Case Keenum has been playing great football. And by that, I mean he's been playing very solid performances almost every week. Artavius Murray has been playing great. McKinnon struggling a little bit, but when you have probably the best wide receiver duo in the league in Thielen and Diggs, if they could both stay healthy. Thielen, I believe they said, is the first player in Vikings history since Randy Moss, I should say, to top 1,000 yards and 70 receptions so early in the season. That's a credit to how hard he works. And their offense isn't even their best unit. Their defense is lights out, can shut you down, can take you away every week. You have to bring a game plan for that defense if you're going to beat them. A really good team, and probably my favorites to take off the Eagles. Then we have the top two teams here, Patriots and Eagles. They both stay in the top two. They both have been on insane streaks, hot streaks. In a couple of weeks, everyone's probably aware of this. Week 15, there will be a matchup of the Pittsburgh Steelers against the New England Patriots that probably decides home field advantage in the AFC. Currently, the Steelers hold it. I think that's because of conference record or something like that. Or similar opponents, I believe, is the tiebreaker, because where the Steelers beat the Chiefs but the Patriots lost. Now, I like what the Patriots do. Cooks has been really showing up in the last few games, which is nice. Gronk started showing up again, which is also good. Martellus Bennett got put on IR, which is a little bit of a concern, but not enough to where it's going to be like, oh, he's going to be a difference maker. He only caught like 2 or 4 passes, something like that, in the last few games. Dwayne Allen's been stepping up ever since Martellus Bennett joins, so that's nice. Their defense is playing good football. A lot of injuries on the Patriots, and that is a concern. That could cause them to drop a little bit pretty soon. Hogan has been out the last few weeks, so has Cannon. Waddle's hurt. Van Noy has been playing well, but he's hurt. Nate Ebner's lost for the year, a key special teamer. A couple people did get signed. Maybe they fill in a little bit on special teams, but when you have a quarterback like Tom Brady, who's thrown, I believe, 26 touchdowns and 3 interceptions this year, it's really hard to pick against that. I mean, there's only one player that has more touchdowns, but they have more interceptions as well. And that's our number 1 team, the Philadelphia Eagles, with Carson Wentz, who I believe has 28 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. A really good football team. I can't say enough about the Eagles. I can't discredit them whatsoever. If you're an Eagles fan watching this, I appreciate your team and your team. I really do. I like Carson Wentz coming out of college. He was a good player. I didn't think he was capable at that point of being a top 2 pick, because I agreed with some scouts that he had mechanic issues. And in his first year as the Eagles quarterback, he had a lot of mechanic issues. Trust me. I think that contributed mostly to his poor performance. And once he fixed those mechanic issues I was concerned about, he's turned it around. That run game with Ajayi, Clement, Blunt is as dangerous as any other run game in the league. And that defense has the capability of shutting down any offensive skill player from tight end, wide receiver, running back that they want. You're going to have to bring the whole kit and caboodle if you're going to want to beat the Eagles. They are the number 1 team in the NFL. Probably Super Bowl favorites at this point. But in the next coming weeks, they have some challenging matchups. And it should be interesting. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe if you are new. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.